lack of progress on several issues, but at the same time, individual investors are pouring money into mutual funds, forcing these guys to invest it. So we don't know where it's going from here.
What has the impact been of the first quarter earnings reports?
Well, that hasn't helped much. Earnings were up in the first quarter, but not as much as many people expected. We hoped that because of that, even though we have a slow economy, we would see more earnings from companies that have been restructuring. It didn't come through like people expected. That's been a drag on the market.
Doug Cease this morning. Thank you so
Okay.
much. All right, coming up on NBC News at Sunrise, Joe Witte's weather. Donald Trump takes on the federal government and Native Americans. Also in sports, the Maple Leafs double their pleasure.
Oh, I wish Bill were here. If something was to happen to his father,
He's flying back, Mom. He'll come straight to the hospital.
Excuse me, are you Mrs. Shannon?
Yes.
Your husband's stabilized. He's going to be all right.
Oh, thank goodness.
We gotta let Bill know.
Across all 50 states, Canada, and the Caribbean, only Mobilecom can keep you close to the things you really care about. When you travel, be sure you know. Mobilecom, 1-800-795-5555.
July in Yuma, Arizona. Average high temperature, 106 degrees.
Devilishly hot, that's what it is. It's just devilishly hot.
Anybody with money or sense, please down for the summer.
Me and my compa have a name for those people who don't have air conditioning.
Coco!
Comfort Maker. Now that's a good air conditioner. You want to stay nice and cool? Well, get a Comfort Maker air conditioner.
When you want high-quality home comfort, ask for it by name. Comfort Maker.
Now if I can only be the kind of mom you've been for me. Flowers say what words can't say. It's as easy as FTD.
Afraid swimsuit season will reflect badly on you? Then make the under 200-calorie Kellogg's Special K breakfast part of your diet plan. And get the shape that reflects the way you want to be. Kellogg's Special K. Lose that winter fat.
In sports, Houston and Charlotte are a win away from advancing to the second round of the NBA playoffs. The Rockets soared past the LA Clippers 111-99, taking a 2-1 lead in the best-of-5 series. That's the same advantage Charlotte holds over Boston after the Hornets stung the Celtics 119-89. Boston is playing without Reggie Lewis, who's been diagnosed with a heart ailment doctors say will likely end his career. Meantime, Don Chaney has been named coach of the Detroit Pistons, replacing Ron Rothstein, who was fired last week. On the ice, Doug Gilmour's goal in the second overtime boosted Toronto past St. Louis 2-1 in the opening game of their Stanley Cup playoff series. In baseball, a rough night for American League division leaders. Albert Bell blasted a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 8th, rallying Cleveland past California 5-4. It was Bell's second homer of the game and 10th of the season, tops in the majors. Seattle blanked Boston, dropping the Red Sox a half game behind Detroit in the East. Texas trounced Milwaukee. And Oakland's Mark McGwire also slugged a pair of homers, including one off Jim Abbott. And the A's went on to beat the Yankees 4-2. The National League took the day off. And Ranger Nolan Ryan, sidelined for knee surgery, will return to action Friday night. And that's sports. Time now for Tuesday morning's weather and Joe Witte. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Ann. Well, if you live in the Central Plains, you could take the day off, a nice day. But I'm tracking two storm systems, one in the east and one in the far west, that's going to provide some rain and some mountain snows for Montana. We're going to have some strong thunderstorms for parts of the high western plains around eastern Colorado up through western Dakotas, and mountain snows. In fact, we have winter storm watches posted for the mountains of Montana. Meanwhile, persistent thunderstorms and showers for the midsection of the country as far as the Appalachians are concerned and the Great Lakes. Sunshine in Louisiana and the far west. Windy over Southern California. Winds abating later on today. Temperature-wise, we'll be running above normal in the Central Plains. 80s up through Kansas. 70s all the way to the Canadian border. Those cold 40s in the valleys and mountain areas also of Idaho with snow falling to the north. That's the national weather. Now here's what's happening in your neighborhood. For the My-High city of Denver, expect a high of 75 degrees today, 74 degrees in Los Angeles. For Boston, New York City, expect some low morning clouds, some fog, possible airport delays. Atlanta going up to 75, and Miami looks awfully nice with a high of 83. Coming up next, more on the possible airport delays due to the weather this Tuesday. Ann?
All right, thanks, Joe. Well, Joe, if you've been following the saga of the Taster's Choice coffee couple, then here's what you've been waiting for. The grand finale is now airing on TV. Actress Sharon Maughan and Tony Head have kept viewers on the edge of their seats. ever since the neighbors first began borrowing coffee from one another. Would they or wouldn't they? Yes, they did. Kiss at last in Paris. Apparently, this is the final commercial. No word yet on sequels. Well, ahead on Sunrise, David Letterman's replacement meets the press. Also, Martin Luther King Jr. and the core question of who should own history.
Today's weather is brought to you by AT&T. We'll always be there with new ways to help.
Did you ever think about what lost 800 calls can cost your business? Today, you're free to keep your 800 number and move to the most reliable 800 service, AT&T. The one that gets more calls through, so you can complete more sales. Think about what that kind of freedom can add up to. AT&T, the best in the business.
Your car doesn't look, doesn't feel, doesn't smell brand new anymore. The thrill is gone. Get it back with new vinyl. New vinyl conditions, restores, and protects vinyl and leather. You get a protective finish and a showroom feel that's so real, you can smell it. Want it back? That new car feeling? It's yours with new vinyl.
Get new vinyl at Kmart, Walgreens, Sears, Western Auto, Ace, True Value, and other leading stores.
It's Branscombe Lumber's huge spring savings sale with do-it-yourself bargains store-wide like these. Power roof vents only $41.69. Owens Corning Classic fiberglass shingles are only $16.89 a square. The 2-gallon can of Jones Blair Celebration house paint is just $18.89. And get a free 2-gallon sprayer with a purchase of 6 gallons of total wood finish at just $10.89 a gallon. Don't forget to register to win a free 93 Chevy S10 Tahoe pickup while you're there. The drawing is May 17th, so pick up your contest rules today at Branscombe Lumber, 1629 North Broadway in Ada.
There's more to news than just a 6 and 10 newscast. There's assignments, shooting, writing, editing, setup, research, mapping, designing, studio work, graphics, timing, and communication. That's why here at News Center 10, we've assembled a team that's dedicated to putting together the most reliable, up-to-date newscast in North Texas and Southern Oklahoma. Because only after the work is done can News Center 10 bring you the news. K10, because it matters.
It's Tuesday, May 4th. Here are some of the stories we're following this morning on NBC News at sunrise. An apartment fire in Los Angeles kills 10 people, including children, and injures dozens. Secretary of State Warren Christopher takes his Bosnia peace mission to Paris, where there has been opposition to U.S. plans. And military sources tell NBC News that U.S. Special Force troops are already on the ground in Bosnia, pinpointing targets for Allied strikes. A Texas inmate has become the 200th person to be executed since the Supreme Court reinstated capital punishment 17 years ago. Darrell Stewart died by lethal injection this morning. He was on death row for murder and attempted rape. Donald Trump is accusing the federal government of discrimination. He's filed a lawsuit claiming a law that allows Native American tribes to run casinos and bingo games is unconstitutional. Gary Matsumoto reports.
Donald Trump wants the boom in Indian reservation gambling to stop. His lawsuit, filed in federal court in New Jersey, charges that tribal gambling is unfair, calling it a discriminatory federal program designed to benefit a very limited class of citizens. In short, it threatens Donald Trump's bottom line.
I pay huge amounts of taxes. I'm competing against people that pay no taxes, that keep everything. Nothing happens with it. Nobody knows where the money is, where the money's going.
Since the passage of the 1988 Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, 18 states have entered into agreements with Indian tribes to permit gambling on the reservations, including this one in Connecticut, which is close enough to draw business away from Trump's Atlantic City casinos. Tribal revenues from gambling have climbed to $6 billion a year, a boon to Native Americans who are among the most impoverished people in the country.
The tribes had been deprived of the best land in this country and pushed off into the worst land. And in real estate, location is everything. And so what they needed was a little bit of a leg up.
States oppose Indian gambling because they can't tax it. Trump claims it's unfair competition. Gary Matsumoto, NBC News, New York.
Closing arguments begin tomorrow in the legal dispute over some of Martin Luther King's personal papers. They're housed at Boston University, but King's widow is suing the university. She says the papers belong at the King Center in Atlanta. Bob Dotson has more.
Boston University is in possession of nearly half the personal papers of Dr. Martin Luther King. He sent them north for safekeeping in 1964, when he felt himself a target. Now his widow, Coretta Scott King, is fighting in a Boston court to get them back. The university will not give them up.
The idea was that the originals would be deposited in our well-established archives at Boston University.
No question Dr. King wanted Boston University to guard his papers. In the event of my death, he wrote, all such materials deposited with the university shall become the absolute property of Boston University.
He said he had second thoughts about it.
Mrs. King contends her husband changed his mind just before his death and set up a committee to develop a permanent home for his papers.
Dr. King never told anyone at Boston University that he changed his mind.
In any case, he died without a will, with only the hope, says Mrs. King, that one day the South would be safe enough for his papers to be returned. Bob Dotson, NBC News, Atlanta.
The so-called unknown comedian is a little bit better known today. Conan O'Brien, David Letterman's late-night replacement, introduced himself to TV critics Monday.
Relatively unknown? Sir, I'm completely unknown. Nobody knows who the hell I am. And I have no performing experience. I don't want to hear this.
O'Brien will be a guest on the Today program later this morning, and he'll meet Letterman for the first time on tonight's Late Night. We'll still ahead Money Magazine's Jordan Goodman and how the small investor is doing, and Joe Witte with the travel weather.
The facts, just the facts. When you buy a Price Pfister, you get far more faucet. Starting with a fabulous engineering inside, on top of which they add fashion galore. Far more faucet for far less money. Which is why nothing, in fact, compares to Price Pfister. The fabulous faucet with a funny name.
Does your full commission broker have you trapped in fees? Fees for trading, fees for not trading, even exit fees when you close your account. There is a better way. Charles Schwab has accounts with no annual fees and a wide variety of mutual funds with no loads. And for a limited time, this unique offer.
We'll rebate your exit fees when you move your account to Schwab.
If you feel trapped in fees,
maybe it's time to come to Schwab.
Ever wonder how far you could get on $19? Where you could go? And what you could see? Well, now's the perfect time to find out. Because right now, Alamo is offering a special low rate on an economy car with unlimited free miles for just $19 a day. We call it Alamo's Great American Rate. One low rate that's good anywhere in America. And at $19, you never know where you could end up.
January, he was Mr. Right. February, Mr. Wrong. March, he's back. There's only one calling plan that adjusts with you. Off again, on again, never again. It's the Most from Sprint. The Most saves you up to 36% each month on whomever you call the most, automatically. Could be the easiest part of your relationship.
Another setback for small investors. Data gathered from Money Magazine's Small Investor Index indicates the value of the average portfolio lost $52 last week. It's now worth $47,130. Joining us now is Money Magazine's Jordan Goodman. Good morning, Jordan.
Good morning, Ann.
Question is, how have small investors done in the first 100 days of the Clinton presidency?
Not that well, actually. The average performance is up 1.3% for the average portfolio over the first 100 days. That comes to a 5% annual rate of gain.
Now, how does that compare to past presidents, President Bush, for instance?
Well, not as good at all. Under Bush in the first 100 days, it was up 4%, or an average annual rate of 15.7%. So it's about a third of the performance under Bush.
And what has been the best performing stocks and investments for Clinton?
Well, actually, it
Clinton
hasn't been
augury.
stocks. It's been gold, which has been up an average of 38% in the last 100 days. By far the best performing asset.
And the worst performing?
Worst has actually been small stocks, which have been down an average of 6% over that time period.
Now, does this indicate what may happen for the rest of Clinton's term?
I think it does. It does set a tone. In the first 100 days under Bush, stocks were by far the best performer, up 8%, and they turned out to be the best performers over the full years of Bush. Now, I don't think gold is going to keep doing as well as it has recently, but there's clearly a lot of concern about inflation out there under what Clinton has proposed.
What assets do you think are going to do really well from here on?
I think bonds are going to do pretty well right now. As long as he continues to say he wants to cut the deficit and actually has some action in that direction, interest rates will keep falling, and that will help bonds. Individual stocks will do well, but I think the broad market's not going to do as well as probably under Bush.
Has the big anchor on the Clinton inaugural, since the inaugural, been the health costs, the concerns about
That's right. I think that combination of the health costs with all the tax increases that would come from also the deficit cutting, which is good as far as the bond market, but it's not good for the stock market because it does hurt the economy.
Jordan Goodman this morning. Thanks you
Ann.
so much. Joe has a story about snow in May.
That's right. We're talking about May snow, and that's not a question mark. It's an sure thing. Winter storm warnings posted for portions of Montana and Wyoming. 6 to 12 inches of snow. Travelers on I-90 are going to find it a little tough in some of the places. 3 to 6 to the south of that. And south of that, some thunderstorms. Let's take a look-see at the weather situation. 2 storm systems, one in the west, a combined pair of lows, really, and then a second one, a real slow mover that's slowly moving across the mighty Mississippi towards the Great Lakes, and most of that rain is moving due northward, so the rain should stay well east of the East Coast today. Possible airport delays because of these 2 systems. Billings, Rapid City, Denver for the western sections, Des Moines due to some morning fog. Along the East Coast, New York City has some dense fog at JFK and LaGuardia airports, and Atlanta a chance of thunderstorms later on today, and the same thing for Detroit. On today's traveling map, we do find some sunny spots. That will be over the southern plains and also the central plain states. Minneapolis going up to 70 with the rain to the east of that. Strong thunderstorms likely for the western high plains of the Dakotas and also Colorado, and we'll find ourselves with a hot spot of Brownsville, Texas, going up to 90 degrees. Windy conditions for the southern sections of California and Arizona. Do have a safe trip today. Ann?
All right, thanks, Joe. A family in Utah sure got carried away. Dad and the boy set out to add a basketball hoop to the side of their home, but this is what the result was of that simple project. A treehouse and so much more. The activity center is complete with hammocks, swings, and slides. Whether you call it creativity or boredom gone wild, the kids certainly seem to enjoy it. It's Tuesday, May 4th. I'm Ann Curry. This is NBC News at Sunrise.
Later this morning on Today, Big Mac celebrates 25 big years.
Also the new host of Late Night, Conan O'Brien, plus Kenneth Branagh. So join us later this morning.
And find out what a difference Today makes.
Q101.7. Q101.7.
Q101.7.
The new Q101.7. Part of the K10 News team, Doris Winkler, because it matters.
Northwestern University is not anyone's idea of a football powerhouse. In fact, it was known for years as the joke of the Big Ten, but that's just intercollegiate football. Northwestern does other things with the sport, things like promoting school spirit and family unity. Mike Leonard takes another look at the Burton family of Northwestern University.
He hadn't played football in nearly 3 decades, yet there was 56-year-old Ron Burton, a public relations executive, preparing to collide head-on with the legend of his name.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
It was Northwestern University's annual spring football game. The second-string varsity against the alumni, including the distinguished Mr. Burton. In the late 1950s, Ron Burton was a record-breaking All-America running back. Now he's come running back out of the past to play again.
To show his children the moves that made him a star in this stadium, and to come face-to-face with his legacy.
All right, way to go, Burton! Namely Steve, Ron Jr., Phil, Paul, and Beth, the 5 Burton children who made Northwestern their school, too. All of his football-playing sons were in the lineup on Saturday. The two graduates alongside their father on the alumni squad against the two students still on the varsity. It was an emotional sight for a man who was saved from poverty by a football scholarship.
Imagine having all 5 of your children come to your school, all of them honor students, all of them have their heads on straight.
Straight, that is, until they started whacking each other around. With Burtons on offense, Burtons on defense, and Burtons in the middle, family run-ins were unavoidable.
When in doubt, knock them out.
Even Dad?
We'll knock Dad down. But we'll pick him up, but we'll knock him down again. That sounds like my guys.
Guys who never have and most likely never will prove the athletic equal of their father.
Doesn't matter.
Besides,
it shouldn't be a prove thing. It should be a love thing.
And didn't he love this one chance to line up with his children on a football field?
This is something that very few dads are able to do. I'm so thankful that we're all here together.
The father who passed on the lessons gets the ball passed to him by son Steve, only to have son Phil take it away. Isn't that painful? No.
That is a blessing.
Mike Leonard, NBC News, Evanston, Illinois.
That's NBC News at Sunrise for this Tuesday morning. I'm Ann Curry, and I'll see you tomorrow.
A healthcare shocker. Eye surgery costs taxpayers billions each year, but some patients don't even need it. A story you have to see to believe. Dateline NBC, tonight.
Dorothy Walsh is beating cancer. Every day, she drives from her home in the Texoma area to a medical center that specializes in life-saving diagnosis and treatment and offers comprehensive resources for cancer patients, including cancer support groups and a toll-free cancer hotline for patients and their families. All of that could make it worth it for Dorothy to drive all the way to Dallas. But the best part is, she doesn't have to, because it's all right here at Texoma Medical Center.
It's here, it's fun, it's easy, and it can be rewarding to you. It's K10 Family Win, and it's going on now. Just send us your non-returnable picture to one of the addresses below. When you see your photo on the screen, you'll have 10 minutes to call in and win big cash prizes. Get your photo in now. Only one winner per family. K10's Family Win. It's now, and it's paying big dividends. But you must send in your photo to K10 if you wish to cash in. K10's Family Win. K10, where it pays to watch.
You're watching Channel 10, KTEN Television, Ada Ardmore, Sherman Denison, Durant, Paris.